it's overwhelming, but it's also our jobs.
Our job is only going to get harder.
It's worrisome.
This is something that's unprecedented.
Now is not the time to be a cowboy. No one has anything to prove. We're all in this together.
Welcome to Reporting from the Front Lines of a Pandemic. I'm Elizabeth Perkin, and I'm joined with Norman Oliver, an associate producer at CBS News in New York City. Thanks so much for joining me today, Norman.
Thank you.
So our first question is, how have you adjusted to working during a pandemic like this? How's it been?
So essentially, CBS News has been really on the front lines of this pandemic and really finding creative ways of making our broadcast work and making our workflow work. Because essentially our main headquarters has been shut down for about 2 weeks now. We got evacuation notice with about 2 hours notice that we had to leave the building, evacuate, because 2 people had been tested positive for the virus. So they wanted everybody out. So essentially all our broadcasts moved to DC temporarily for 2 days, and then the next week our morning show went to the Ed Sullivan's Theater in New York and switched back up. So really all our main headquarters has been shut down, which has made it very difficult, but we've been finding very creative ways to do it. I'm a different type of producer at CBS News as opposed to the normal piece producer that you would normally be accustomed to. I'm the middle person between our affiliate stations and the CBS News network. So it's my job to promote CBS News shows and our content to get those onto our affiliate local stations. So essentially, normally right now we would do what we call talkbacks, is when you have the national anchor come on to the local newscast and preview what's coming up on the show, or a correspondent will come on the local show and preview what their story is going to be coming up, whether that be evening news, CBS This Morning, Face the Nation, Sunday morning, whatever. But obviously, since we're not in our headquarters and we don't have our studio, it makes it a lot more difficult to have these talkbacks going on. So yesterday we got creative, and one of our correspondent, Steve Hartman, is doing a daily class for children called Kindness 101. So we had to set up what we normally would do was go in, get all the affiliates, get all their technical information, get everything routed to a studio. But obviously, since we don't have our studio, we did it through Skype. So we lined up all the affiliates, got all their Skype information. Obviously, it was a lot more difficult, and we couldn't do as many. Normally, you might do them all like hit after hit after hit with just 10 minutes for each, and 5 minutes leeway to get everything set up. But we only did about 3 in the morning, and then we did about 3 in the afternoon, all through Skype. Because obviously, this isn't as streamlined as, working through what we call IFB, which is connected throughout the network through all of our affiliates. Not everybody is used to doing interviews through Skype. Not everybody is used to doing, there's no streamlined way of doing it. Each network has its own different capabilities. What the station in Tampa or Dallas has is different what the New York and LA has, and obviously our New York local station is in the same building as us, so they don't have a network, they don't have a headquarters either. So basically it's just getting innovative, working with what we have. But luckily we are a network that has offices around the world, and we've been able to utilize all those bureaus and offices.
Okay. And how has so you said that CBS is using different offices, but how are they getting the news out there? Are anchors reporting from home? Are reporters still going out on the streets? Or are they staying more in their homes and doing their reporting that way?
Reporters are definitely, and correspondents are definitely staying more so in their homes. And anchors, one of our anchors, Anthony Mason, anchored from home this morning for CBS This Morning. Majority of our pieces, if you look at our correspondence pieces, they're doing their live shots from their homes inside. And really, it's just minimal staffing. Even if you watch the pieces, you can tell a lot of it is more third party. It's more things that have been taken on from people actually on the scene, and we've asked them to use that video, clear that video, and put it in our packages, as opposed to us going out ourselves and shooting it.
Mm-hmm. And so for you as a producer, how have you seen your roles change? Because now you're having to coordinate everything from afar. Is that harder? Is it easier?
No, it's definitely harder because normally on a normal day, I would come in, let's say, look at a rundown, see what stories I could promote, talk to that producer. I would actually physically go down and talk to the producer who's producing the actual piece, ask them, okay, like, do you want to promote this? Is this something we can do? Yes. Talk to the correspondent. The correspondent would already be in the building. I would just have to make sure what their schedule is as far as what they're doing for interviews, what they're doing for tracking the piece, like if they're needed for anything. And then I would just book a studio time within the building, talk to all the affiliates, see who wants to take it, what time, schedule that, write a script for the anchor, for the local anchor to read, and for the national correspondent to read, and get the questions from the piece producer. So I would schedule all that, and then they would just come in, boom, 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 we hit them all up. But right now, obviously, like, it takes more time to talk to these people. So right now I'm working on setting up affiliates for tomorrow with one of our congressional correspondents, basically on the stimulus package. I just emailed her, asked her, okay, hey, like, we're interested in doing, we can pretty much, she's going to be on both shows tomorrow, so I can work with her in multiple ways. Like, I can work with her in the morning, like in the 6 a.m. hour to hit the East Coast affiliates, or I could work with her in the 9 a.m. hour to hit the West Coast affiliates, or I could work for 12 o'clock shows. I could work with her for 5 o'clock shows in the afternoon to preview before evening news. So, but the thing is, she's going to be on the Hill, so she's not going to have Skype capabilities, unlike Steve Hartman. So I have to rely on her crew, that they can dial in all the contact information to connect to the station live or tape. And I'm not sure what that station's capabilities are, or how many people they're allowing in their particular building at what time for a time frame. So it's really just like, normally this would be super easy to do. Boom, she would tell me what times, I would reach out, boom, schedule everything. But obviously I have to wait for what her availability is, what her crew's availability is, because this will not work without a crew. And then I have to reach out to the stations to see what they can do right now. It makes it easier by not doing it on Skype, but it makes it more difficult because I have to rely on a crew, and I'm not sure what their time frame is.
Mm-hmm. That is very hard. Now, are you guys taking any like precautions as like, say the reporter that you're working with tomorrow, they're out in the field? Do you guys have precautions, and what has CBS put in place to make sure that you guys are all staying safe and healthy during this time?
Well, essentially everybody's on a work from home policy, so only people that are absolutely necessary are out in the field. I would say our congressional and White House correspondents are pretty much the only people I've seen that have been out and about. But also, I mean, that is like in federal government domain, so they are taking the proper precautions, because obviously everything's being sanitized. I mean, you have senators, Congress people, their entire teams coming in. So I would expect, and especially the White House with the president, that they are taking the utmost sanitary steps. I mean, when you go into the White House briefing room now, you have to get your temperature taken. I'm not exactly sure if it's like that on Capitol Hill, but though this particular reporter, I know she's already in good hands from that situation. But CBS News in general is like across the board, everybody's work from home mandated. You can, everybody, and in fact, not even just CBS, all Viacom CBS, because we are now Viacom CBS, across the board, BT, MTV, CMT, everyone is work from home until further notice. So really just limiting people going out in the field, limiting amount of people we have coming who actually have to come in for the broadcast, and then also like social distancing within the broadcast, if you have to come to the building, social distancing there. Whereas you can't go up and talk to somebody, now you just have to call them, like on the phone. Like, I mean, they could be like across the room where normally you just walk across the newsroom, but now no, they want you to call them and get in touch with them. Also the same thing for our normal meetings. Normally, obviously, you meet in the conference room or something like that. All meetings are on the phone now. You don't meet in person with anyone. It's very strictly, everything is very remote. And yeah, so I mean, besides that, they really count on any possible flare-ups because we're not in the building. Everyone's working remotely. So it's very minimal people that would have any interaction with somebody else.
Mm-hmm. That's really good. Did you ever think that something like this would be possible? Like doing the news from home, you always see like how crucial it is to be in the studio, to be live somewhere, and now it's all being taken and moved remotely. Do you think that you ever would have thought that this would be possible?
No, I mean, not at all. And I don't think anybody was. I mean, these people have been working at CBS News for 30, 40 years and never thought this would ever happen. I mean, it's never happened. I mean, for instance, but it also just shows you the power of technology. If this was the 80s, we'd be in big trouble. Because, I mean, you can't work from home. I mean, in that sort of climate, you know? But right now, the power of technology, the power of the email, you know, power of Skype, all of these technologies, power of Zoom, FaceTime, that we are even able to do this, you know, have really come into play, and it's really shown how far we've come in the modern society. I mean, for instance, when our building was initially shut down, our local news couldn't do their newscast, and their sister station in LA, our CBS in LA, did the 5 o'clock, 11 o'clock newscast for the New York station from LA. That's never been done from NBC, CBS, ABC. No network has ever done that in the history of television. So it just shows how amazing technology has come into play, and it's really saved a lot of broadcasts. I mean, again, like I was saying, like this was years ago, this would be a totally different story.
It's really amazing that we're able to take it there. Now going into like a little bit more about you personally. So you, I saw that you originally started at TMZ when you had graduated, Emerson. I want to go into entertainment reporting, so I wasn't sure like how you made the switch from working in entertainment to more of a hard news outlet. Was that easy? Was it hard? Is it what you wanted to do?
It definitely wasn't easy, but now, I mean, the benefit of that was I was only at TMZ for a very short time and then left, and I was in Los Angeles, and then I moved to New York City, and then I started off different. My route, I didn't go directly into the news department. I started off as a page. So, I mean, that was kind of like still entertainment, but you had different positions in the news division, but I also was on Colbert Show. I mean, it was just different positions. But then I still wanted to be in news. I didn't want to go into entertainment. I didn't want to do the Entertainment Tonight thing. I wanted to, you know, I felt like the stories I was doing more so in entertainment, it was always about, you know, the chase of just being like in other people's business, just being nosy, essentially what it was, you know? And I mean, Hollywood is a game, just like anything else. I mean, to be honest, Washington is just the same. But I would say, I think if I had stayed longer in the entertainment business, it would have definitely been harder to make a switch. I don't think it's definitely, I would say it's easier to make a hard news switch to entertainment. But I would say, I definitely would think somebody who came in with 5 years, like, you know, senior producer at an entertainment, you know, magazine show would not be seen as a very viable candidate to be like, you know, a producer in the DC bureau, because it's just a different skill set. It's just a different set of information that you're used to, and you need to have so much knowledge. You need to, like, you know, and that comes with the job. You just are constantly reading, constantly being updated. But I think the way it was easier for me to make a pivot into hard news is because I started so earlier in my career. Now that I'm about 3 years into hard news, I think it would, like I said before, like it would be difficult for me to go back to entertainment right now because I've been in hard news for too long. I could, because I mean, I had like a little taste of it and I know how it works, and I still, like, you know, have my contacts and everything like that. Because hard news and entertainment do overlap. Obviously, somebody dies or there's a huge scandal, you know, like arrest. Obviously, Harvey Weinstein trial, R. Kelly, all these things overlap with entertainment, and we all work together. But I would say it definitely is. I would say it's definitely harder to come from entertainment to hard news rather than hard news to entertainment. It's still hard, but I think it will be harder to go from entertainment to hard news.
Did you always, so you said that you knew that you wanted to be in like news. Did you always knew you wanted to be a producer, or did you ever like have that time period where you were like unsure of being a producer or a reporter or an anchor?
Oh no, for sure when I was at Emerson, totally wanted to be on air, totally wanted to be an anchor or a reporter or whatever. That was what I trained for. I was in Marsh's class. Everything I did was on air. I had absolutely no interest in being a producer. My reel was all on air. But it wasn't until I got into working at TMZ and started producing and everything like that, that I got the flavor of it. I started to see how it goes and, like, creating something and, like, seeing how the finished product. And I really loved it. So it was fun, like, creating everything, calling the shots, because at the end of the day, talent does not have the power. And I mean, I can say that from all levels, from local to network to everywhere. Talent is definitely interchangeable. I mean, you make one little mistake on air, say one little thing incorrectly, pronounce something incorrectly, say something that might be considered offensive, your tone, the way you dress, everything is so scrutinized. Whereas if you're on the assignment desk or just producing something, you don't know that, unless you make a big, boo-boo as far as, reporting something incorrectly, telling your reporter something incorrectly, or, spelling something wrong that, like, is a big deal, like if you spell, like, Trump wrong or something, But I would say definitely producing has become a lot of fun because producers call the shots. They make the decisions and they kind of hold all the cards and they really bring the story to life. Whereas talent, I mean, you have some talent who are a little bit more hands-on from the pitch process to seeing their story out, going out for interviews, writing. But then there's a lot of talent who don't write at all and don't help at all. And the producer does everything. So, I mean, it's really like give or take. I mean, everyone's different. But at the end of the day, whatever goes into a piece or whatever goes into broadcast always is on the producer. It always ends up on the producer. It's always the producer's fault. Because at the end of the day, it's your piece, it's your broadcast.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you feel like you want to continue within CBS, like going up to the next level of like a producer, or do you feel like you want to shift to somewhere else, or like do you like being at CBS?
No, I love being at CBS. It's a great company. It's been really great for me. There's so much opportunity. There's so many. I mean, you can pretty much do, especially since we've merged with Viacom, there's pretty much no limit to what you can do. I mean, you can go into entertainment. You can go into, further your work into hard news. You can go into like a magazine type show for softer news. You can go into documentary. You can go into music. You can go into reality. There's so many different types of producing, production-wise, that you can go into. So yes, no. Love CBS, don't want to leave. Definitely want to be one of those 30, 40-year lifers.
That's amazing. So what is some advice that you would give to someone wanting to go into broadcast journalism in any aspect?
In any aspect? I would say, honestly, being aggressive. The way you get your foot into this door, in this building, in this business, is just being aggressive. Sending out emails. I mean, I can't tell you how many no's I received before getting my job at CBS. I mean, so many no's across the board from sending out reels to like going to interviews. I mean, people just don't respond or they're just very slow. And I mean, I would say when I got to New York, I like freelanced for a while, but to get a solid job in news, it took me about like 6-7 months. So, I mean, it's a grind. And not everybody is built for that. Not everybody wants to be aggressive. I feel like a lot of times, sometimes in college, you can be a little bit coddled and things can kind of be like handed to you. And at the end of the day, this is the big leagues. This is this is the world, and you're competing against so many people, especially if you're somebody who wants to start off in a bigger market, which I got lucky in the sense that I started off in, the big 2 markets. Mm-hmm. But my route is so different, I luckily knew somebody at CBS who connected me with the coordinator for the Page program. Once I got into the Page program, I didn't get accepted into that program for about 3 months. Once I got accepted in, I started sending emails. Once you are in, I'm just sending emails to different departments, whatever. Different department heads to just do informational interviews, getting my name out there, seeing who I can meet. And that's how I got my first job in news at CBS News with the radio network. And then after that, continued doing that. Then I got my job at Evening News, continued to do that. And now I got my job here where I'm at right now, broadcasting marketing. It's all about working your connections. There's so many Emerson people in the industry. Marsha is a huge, I would say probably one of the best contacts to have because she literally knows so many people in so many markets. Utilize her connections. Everyone's always willing to help. Honestly, it's rare that you would say that most people who are in touch with their college professors would even be doing this. Most people would be like, oh, whatever. I mean, one of those people who responded to her email chain is Judy Tygard, who is the executive producer of 48 Hours. I mean, that's a huge contact that you all have at your Will that you could contact and ask like for advice on possibly how to get a job, and she might have an opening for an entry level position coming up soon. So I mean, I would say just utilizing her and not being afraid to reach out, and not always believing that you have to do it on your own. There's nothing wrong with asking somebody for help, asking somebody for a contact, reaching out. And honestly, and there's nothing wrong with reaching out to anybody, the biggest person, the smallest person. All they can do is say no. Try your luck.
Okay, great. Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to say or add about just this whole experience, not only going into the field, but dealing with reporting in a pandemic?
I would say, I guess the biggest thing is just like making sure like all your facts are straight. I mean, these numbers, these orders from governors, mayors, presidents in other countries, world leaders change so quickly. Like, you figured yesterday the numbers were different, an hour ago the numbers were different. It's constantly changing, it's totally fluid. So just knowing what you're talking about and reporting the facts and reporting the truth, especially in a day and age where there's so much misinformation flying around, I feel like this has been a time where we've really been honing in on making sure we're making the right calls and really paying attention to the facts. Because it's so easy to get things wrong nowadays, especially in a fluid situation like this that is constantly evolving.
It definitely is. Thank you, Norman, for taking the time to talk with me today. And thank you for all the work you're doing to keep us informed and safe. And thanks to all of you for watching this episode of Reporting from the Frontline to the Pandemic. I've been speaking with Norman Oliver, an associate producer at CBS News in New York City. I'm Elizabeth Perkin.